Anoka was a hideous, repulsive, worthless, lonely loser who sacrificed countless lives and countries for the awakening of the witch god Aura, even reversing the flow of time to bring his love back from the dead. However, all of his classmates acted as if he didn't exist, but when he dropped his eraser, the hottest girl in school handed it back to him, which led her fan club to assault him after class, smashing his unattractive face into the ground and screaming at him to never stare at their princess ever again. Even while trying to help his teacher, one of the girls attempted to sneak up and kill him, but pretended as if she was helping his pathetic self when Ayaka arrived. And so he continued living his wretched life, being tormented by his classmates, until one day, while taking out the trash, he spotted a mysterious rabbit ear in the garbage can. When he took it out, the note said that the weather was clear with a chance of buildings falling. So, when he looked up, he saw the clock tower collapsing directly onto him. Not once in his life had he been able to hold a girl's hand, but after the tower crushed him, he woke up in Ayaka's arms, realizing they were flying above the tower's destruction. At the same time, the girl who tried to kill him snapped her fingers to summon 2 rabbit knights. So Ayaka threw Anoka away, dodging their swords as she engulfed them in flames, and before Anoka's miserable life could end, she cushioned his fall with her massive missiles. Even so, the bunnies rose from the flames, so she evaded both of their attacks and used her broom to knock them away, before unleashing Hell's Inferno to burn them. But when they leapt back, she cast a fire blast to knock them away. However, the bunnies continued rushing forward, so Ayaka attempted to activate her flaming landmines, but while they used their agility to keep charging, she flashed away to burn one of them to a crisp. At the same time, a cat girl tried calling for Anoka to follow her, so being the brain-dead moron he always was, he ran after her into the alley. Just then, Ayaka began activating her S-rank fire spell, bursting the bunnies into flames, but realized that Anoka had disappeared before his eyes. An army of rabbits restrained him, and their leader put his head down to execute the worthless loser. None of this seemed real, so as Anoka began wondering if he was dreaming, all of the rabbits were lit ablaze. After picking him up, Ayaka warned him to stay closer to her, but he thought she was beautiful even in his dreams, since she would never save him when he was awake. But she revealed that it was her mission to protect her princess. Anoka wondered if he heard that last part right, but before he could check to see if his lollipop was burned off, he saw one of the robots rushing toward her. So, in an attempt to prove that he was truly a man, boasting a full 3 inches, he charged forward using his manly might to protect her. As Ayaka tried making sure he was okay, Anoka realized that size did matter after all, and Ayaka smothered him with her massive cannons, apologizing for not having burned them to dust yet. As the bunnies got back up, she began awakening her inner demon blaze, commanding her 1,000,000 clovers to incinerate them all. These devastating flames had earned her the title Fire Witch. But when Anoka woke up from his coma in a different place, Ayaka revealed that he was in her private room. As he wondered if he was dreaming, she told him he wasn't, and revealed that she'd been secretly protecting him all this time. As they walked home, she promised to always be by his side from now on and walked next to him without saying another word for the rest of the day. The following morning, as the loser thought he was back to his worthless life, Ayaka came up to him on the bus, asking to sit next to him, and as she kept staying by his side, all the girls wished he would end his miserable life, and the gazes from all his classmates made him sick. But as he tried leaving for the bathroom, Ayaka's fan club kicked his worthless body away, threatening to kill him if he kept staying by her side. However, Ayaka appeared at that moment, commanding them to let Anoka go before fixing his collar and telling him that she would burn anyone who ever harmed him again. Their anger didn't end during lunch, and when they started screaming at the princess to get away from the ugly loser that smelled like an anime convention, Ayaka took her wiener out and shoved it down his throat. However, he was tired of everyone plotting his murder, so as he ran away, he wondered when this miserable day would end, until he saw the restored courtyard where the tower fell. Just then, the cat girl appeared, telling him that it was all illusion magic. She had been testing him out to make sure he was harmless, and after getting closer to his face, she unleashed her wings, introducing herself as Kiriashi. But before she could grab him away, Ayaka's flames burned her off. However, Kiriashi summoned her robotic army, revealing that she wouldn't lose this time since her army was 10 times bigger. All the knights began aiming forward along with the lancers. So Ayaka put Anoka's body on the ground before all of them ran to explode on top of her. A few moments later, Anoka began regaining consciousness, seeing that Ayaka's body had been completely torn apart, and screamed at her for sacrificing herself for him. Hearing his words, she wondered why he would be mad when he's safe. But Anoka realized that he hadn't listened to her this entire time and was the reason she got hurt. Because of that, he realized that he should believe in her no matter what. As he started screaming for an ambulance, She told him that she was made of fire, asking him to close his eyes if he truly believed in her. As soon as he did, Ayaka's flames began to engulf her body, and while all the bunnies struggled to jump down, a massive explosion blew them all away, with Ayaka appearing in her second form. None of the robots could withstand the heat, and as Ayaka commanded her to burn to nothing, Kiriashi managed to escape. After she was gone, Anoka opened his eyes again. Noticing that Ayaka was back in her regular uniform, while walking home with her, he awkwardly apologized for not shoving her wiener deeper down his throat. But they continued walking in silence once more. The following day, the teacher announced that there would be 5 new transfer students joining their class. Kiriashi Tampopo, Kazari Rin, Katsura Katsu, Meiminawa, and Atsuji Kanna. However, Anoka wondered how more of them appeared, and Ayaka told him that they're exactly what he thought they were. Bitches. The next day, as he was heading off to school, he noticed that Ayaka wasn't on the bus with him and began worrying if she was attacked by them. However, when he arrived in class, he saw that she had already captured the rival witches and was about to smoke them alive, declaring that this was a witch hunt, as she thought the best way to keep him safe was to eliminate the enemies. When Kiriashi tried to speak, Anoka asked Ayaka to remove her gag, hoping he would find out why they were trying to capture him. As she did, Kiriashi started saying that she just wanted to be friends with him. But even Anoka's useless brain wasn't going to fall for her lies, trying to appear brave. He asked her why they wanted to capture him, but Kiriashi thought his question was as worthless as his face. However, she decided to reveal that they actually wanted his body, especially the white stuff inside of him. Hearing her words, Anoka began freaking out, as he was still a hopeless, disgusting virgin who never thought he would ever get laid. At that moment, dark ink began dripping from the ceiling, and Mei appeared above them, capturing Anoka immediately. She was the last one of the group, and as she cast a barrier before Ayaka, she freed the girls and vanished into the floor, thinking she was safe. Mei celebrated her plan working out perfectly, having already paralyzed Anoka's body with a spell. But while she was still celebrating, flames spewed down from the ceiling, and she realized that Ayaka had somehow neutralized her poison, after already burning the other witches. As Ayaka approached her, Mei threatened to kill Anoka with her witch wolf, but Ayaka wouldn't back down, threatening to burn her until there was nothing left. Growing desperate, Mei's wolf bit into Anoka's neck, but his body exploded with a flame, sending him rolling away. Just then, Mei realized that the bite mark had actually transferred to Ayaka's body, but it disappeared before she could get burned. Later that day, after Anoka woke up, he noticed that his wound had healed but saw that Ayaka was wearing a scarf around her neck. This was to conceal her neck wound, but she told him she was trying to stay warm for the weather. She said he would never be safe with the witches lurking around, and suggested they eliminate the superior witches behind the attacks. Realizing that she was risking her life because of him, Anoka begged her to make him her apprentice and asked her to reveal the truth behind the attacks. But she thought it was too early to reveal the secret god inside him. The following day, as they met on the street, looking to spend the weekend together, Anoka couldn't help but notice her cannons were truly massive. As they walked through an alley, Ayaka decided to reveal that she was employed by a workshop to protect him from the tower. Witches. An evil colony of witches whose only desire was to create chaos in the world. Their main objective was to awaken the Demon King, turning the entire world into chaos if they managed to get the white thing inside of him. After stepping into a store, Anoka played the role of a maid, helping Ayaka carry her bags. But when he saw a girl crying, he tried to help her find her family. Surprise! It was a trap set by a new witch who recognized him from her wanted poster. She knocked him aside, but as Ayaka showed up, she drew her blade and took down the witch immediately. Meanwhile, 2 other witches appeared. But when Hai informed them that Ayaka was a workshop witch, they revealed their true forms instantly. Ayaka, unfazed, unleashed a massive flame around them, then threw them at the ceiling. Using the distraction, Anoka managed to escape and save the girl from getting nailed. Ayaka and Hai began their showdown. Hai started shooting at her, but Ayaka shielded herself with her cape. When Hai ran out of bullets, she tried using her blade, but it was already overheated from Ayaka's flames. In a comedic twist, she spilled all the bullets and blasted the useless witches away in the most ridiculous positions possible. Realizing they stood no chance, Hai fired a rope into the roof and escaped with the rest of the losers. As they left, Ayaka told Anoka she had accepted becoming his mistress, but warned that the battle wouldn't end until the witch boss was defeated. When they arrived at school, Ayaka revealed that their school was secretly a witch workshop, a hidden residence built for witches. Upon entering the principal's office, the principal wondered why they were late. She then revealed that Ayaka was actually her daughter and said she would teach Anoka how to become her new apprentice. Anoka quickly figured out where Ayaka got her massive assets. A few days later, Kiriashi and her squad ambushed Anoka on his way to school. Ayaka told Anoka to watch from the sidelines like a useless, ugly dog, as the girls charged at her in their rapid stream formation. She turned her broom and exploded them into the sky. Meanwhile, Anoka secretly wished she would explode him already. That day at school, Anoka wondered why Ayaka didn't have love letters filling her locker. When he opened his own locker, a pile of letters fell on him. Unfortunately, they were all death threats and voodoo dolls aimed at erasing his disgusting existence. Ayaka knew it must have been her fan club members. In class, Ayaka gave him a pile of books to read, telling him it was the start of his training. But as her hot face and body pressed up against him, he realized everyone wanted to murder his ass. Later at the tennis court, the instructor paired Anoka with Ayaka. The 2-incher was still scared of being close to her, but Ayaka told him it was part of his training. As the game started, she kept smacking the ball back to the opponents, but Anoka missed every one of his shots. By the time the game ended, he was already gassed out. However, she picked him up and pushed her massive cannons onto him, showing him how to wield his rod like a pro. While heading home, Ayaka noticed a magical fish flitting around the bus, but when the next stop was announced as dead end, she realized they had an uninvited guest. As sunlight poured in, Ayaka saw the bus was moving on its own. Just then, darkness began to creep over the windows, and a mysterious lady approached. Her magic ocean expanded at the same time. She was Kronua, a powerful tower which famous for her witchy prowess. As Ayaka tried to shield Anoka, Kronua froze her with a spell and attempted to blow her up, only to find Ayaka completely unharmed. Anoka, in a burst of bravery, decided to protect her, but she just called him a clueless moron. No matter what attack Kronua used, Ayaka's flaming body couldn't be harmed. Then, Kronua stabbed him in the belly. As he screamed in pain, he realized he had healed instantly. This made zero sense to him, but before he could figure it out, Ayaka passed out. Noticing her injury, he realized his wound had transferred to her. Kronua revealed that Ayaka had cast a damage transfer spell and would take any injury meant for him. Before he knew it, another witch grabbed him, and Kronua explained that Ayaka had borrowed his power to become invincible, linking them with a powerful bond. She told him his best chance to save her was to share the rest of his magical power, revealing a dark orb for him to swallow. She claimed it would unleash his power, but Anoka smelled a trap as she tried to shove it in his mouth. A green flame erupted. Ayaka had managed to save him. Still weak, she passed out again. She told him this wasn't enough to stop her. As green roots started to spread across her body, she instructed him to close his eyes and think of her. The dormant witch's power awoke, kicking Kronua's throat and revealing her flaming plant demon. As Kronua burned, she promised she'd be back for revenge. At dusk, Anoka woke up to find Ayaka unconscious and managed to get her to the hospital. While there, he discovered Kronua had slipped the orb into his pocket but decided to hide it in his drawer. A few days later, when Anoka resumed his training, Ayaka told him to jump as high as he could. Running towards her, he tried to leap over, but the cape helped him fly high, lifting him to the ceiling. Growing scared and beginning to fall, Ayaka caught him, explaining that the cape made them lighter than feathers. In a flash, she summoned her broomstick and instructed him to summon his own. However, the professor of quantum physics couldn't fathom holding a long rod, considering the only rod he's ever wielded was his 2-inch persuasion. Just then, the students began pouring into the gym. As Anoka started freaking out, terrified of being noticed, Ayaka reassured him that the robe made them invisible to everyone. Soon, they set off to find a new training spot. Ayaka, thinking Anoka had a fear of heights, dragged him along, determined to cure his phobia. She took off on her broom, circling the school before soaring into the sky. Zooming through the city, weaving between skyscrapers, they finally landed on a railing to watch the sunset. Anoka thought the view was stunning, but his lazy self eventually nodded off. A few minutes later, he woke up on the flying broom and noticed a group of girls bullying his classmate, suggesting they rescue her. Ayaka told him her job was to protect the town from bad witches. If he was that bothered by the bullies, she advised calling the police, saying she couldn't risk his safety. But Anoka, feeling heroic, managed to summon his broomstick just in time. Leaping towards the ground, His brain finally caught up with the fact that he couldn't actually fly the broom. Thankfully, Ayaka unleashed her power, helping him command the broom. The wind's backlash wreaked havoc on the area as he zoomed through the city, barely dodging traffic. He eventually crashed into the bullies. Still a weak loser, he couldn't get up, and one of the bullies sat on him, ready to make him pay, as they mocked him, calling him a Walmart Harry Potter and preparing to kill him. Ayaka appeared behind them and unleashed her inferno spell, leaving them charred. When Anoka asked why she killed innocent citizens, she revealed it was a trap to lure him out, explaining they were tower witches. Meanwhile, Kiriashi and her squad were plotting how to defeat Ayaka. Rin suggested attacking Anoka when he was alone, but Cranwer appeared, offering her support. The next day, as Anoka prepared for school, his sister Kasumi tried to pry out the identity of his secret crush. She suspected he was hanging out with the school princess, but Anoka, scared of revealing their secret, dismissed it as a coincidence. As he headed to school, Kasumi followed him like a crazy stalker. With the bus about to leave, he sprinted towards it, only to trip on a rope. Kiriashi appeared, flanked by two bunnies at the same time. Ayaka had been cornered by the rest of the squad. Mei declared they had figured out her power and were there to eliminate her once and for all, so she drew her whip, and they launched their attacks simultaneously. Meanwhile, Anoka had been successfully restrained, and Kiriashi smugly informed him that Ayaka had also been captured. The previous day, when Cranwer visited the girls, she had suggested they separate Ayaka from Anoka, revealing that it was the only way to weaken Ayaka's magic. With their plan succeeding, Kiriashi commanded her which bunnies to take Anoka away, but in a flash, they were obliterated, and a giant figure appeared in the city. It was actually a teddy bear. Anoka, still in shock, realized that Kasumi was controlling the teddy and discovered that she, too, was a witch. She had come to save his sorry and directed her teddy to hurl the captured bunnies away. As Kiriashi grew angrier, she decided to create her own giant-sized bunny to even the fight. Rushing forward, she collided with the teddy, which managed to keep its balance. Ready to retaliate, the teddy raced towards the bunny and clotheslined it. Knocking it to the ground, the bunny, terrified of another beating, began begging for mercy. But as the teddy let its guard down, the bunny poked it in the eyes, causing it to stagger back. Seizing the advantage, the bunny charged at it. Dodging the attack, the teddy reappeared in front of it and attempted a suplex. The bunny managed to land, but as it tried to kick, the teddy spun it around, eventually hurling it at the transmission lines. As the bunny bounced back, the teddy missed a kick and got poked in the neck. Before it could recover, the devious bunny sprayed a green mist in its face, then used the transmission lines as wrestling ropes to return with a blow. However, the teddy landed a punch on its useless face, sending it reeling until it finally fell. While Kasumi gloated over her victory, a bone dinosaur blindsided her teddy, but it managed to regain its balance. The bunny re-emerged, making it a 2-on-1 fight. The teddy began expanding until it reached into the sky. As the bunny and dinosaur attacked its foot like tiny ants, Kasumi declared that she would never fail in her duty to protect her weak and useless brother, smashing them and causing a citywide explosion. Meanwhile, the principal tried relaxing in her office, but turning on the TV, she realized half of the city had been destroyed. Kiriashi and Rin managed to survive the explosion, escaping with their bunnies. As Kasumi descended to the ground, Anoka thanked her for saving him, but she reminded him that she had always protected him whenever he was away from Ayaka. Right then, Anoka noticed Ayaka had not arrived and insisted they must rescue her immediately. Kasumi revealed that Ayaka was already safe. As the teddy set Ayaka down, Anoka worried if she was wounded, but Kasumi grew angry, feeling he didn't care as much about her. However, Ayaka thought her presence was unimportant and began telling Anoka that she would guard him every second of the day, even moving into his room. At school, the principal discovered that Medusa, the second strongest witch in the realm, had escaped after several decades in prison. Later that day, as Anoka's mother thanked Ayaka for always saving her son's sorry, but she revealed that Ayaka was actually his fiancée, and that they had been betrothed to each other even before they were born. She had patiently waited for this very day and was glad that she could finally kick him out, forcing him to become a real man. Just then, Kasumi grew angry and declared she wanted a piece of Anoka. But since they thought she was just an ugly, bitter jerk, Anoka hurried off with Ayaka. After getting far away from Kasumi, Anoka used his classic Reddit pickup line, saying roses are red, just like your lips, and mountains are massive, just like your, well, you know. Actually, he said, roses are red, lemons are sour. Lift your skirt up and give me an hour. However, she revealed that they might have known each other for much longer than they actually remembered. The memories were hazy, but she was certain they'd always known each other and that a witch had wiped their memories. Despite this, her duty to protect him remained unchanged, so she told him that she would continue to protect him forever. Just then, they arrived at a limo, and as they rode off to her crib, Anoka realized that Ayaka's family was extremely rich. He figured if he was going to live a luxurious life with her, then 2 inches wasn't so bad after all. After arriving at her home, Anoka saw that it was the most beautiful place he'd ever seen. But she decided to lead him to the upper floors, offering to share her room with him. As the elevator opened, Ayaka noticed that all the maids had been turned to stone and that her room had been invaded by Medusa. Realizing the danger, she told Anoka to return to the 12th floor as the door shut immediately. Right then, Medusa decided to introduce herself, telling Ayaka that she had come to eliminate her and extract the white thing inside Anoka. However, Ayaka would not go down without a fight, so she prepared to unleash her full powers. As she flew toward Medusa, the giant serpent blocked her attack and managed to repel her. When she returned, the snake smacked her aside, and Anoka tried opening the elevator at the same time. Thinking the enemy was definitely powerful, he decided to wear his magic robe, believing he needed to help Ayaka for once. Just then, the elevator doors began to melt before bursting open. As Anoka found Ayaka injured, she immediately closed his eyes so he wouldn't see her ugly tree hands, but with Medusa preparing for another attack, she told him to run away, saying she would stop Medusa from pursuing him. Just then, a girl started playing a flute, and the power of the tune began turning Ayaka into stone. Desperate to save her, Anoka tried offering himself in exchange, but Medusa scoffed, telling him he was as useful as a screen door on a submarine. Revealing their linked souls meant Ayaka's stony fate would seal his own. Medusa figured Ayaka was better off as a lawn ornament. Yet Anoka spied Kronwar's orb right before him. He still thought it smelled fishy, but desperate to revive Ayaka, he swallowed it on the spot. Right then, the white princess Evermillion popped into view. As 2 grotesque critters charged at her, she flung beams of light that sliced them into confetti. But when Medusa made a beeline for her, she whipped out a mega beam that shook the house's foundation. Meanwhile, Kazini was still cooped up in her office, ready to head home, when the house exploded before her eyes. Fuming at the sight, she fingered Medusa as the likely suspect and ordered her witch toy to round up every workshop witch in the city. Back at the house, Anoka was hellbent on unfreezing Ayaka, begging for help, so Evermillion offered him a deal. His peepers for a solution, thinking it was a steal, Anoka jumped on board, even offering his left sock if it would help. But Evermillion snubbed his nonsense and spilled the beans. Though Anoka was chicken to smooch her, whining his kissable lips weren't ripe, Evermillion laid down the law. This was the only way to unfreeze Ayaka. She explained Medusa couldn't tap her full mojo because her mitts and peepers were still under wraps. That's why Ayaka was a statue. Anoka didn't believe hard enough. She urged him to stoke their magic bond. As she mouthed those magic words, Medusa's spirit came back online. So Evermillion warned they'd be back on the chopping block, bailing on saving his bacon this time. She started to fizzle out, tipping him off about his first ever rodeo. Right then, Medusa swooped in, thirsty for payback, but Anoka, realizing he was as useful as a chocolate teapot alone, plopped a smooch on her kisser, melting the stone away. With Ayaka back in the saddle, Kiriashi and her band of merry idiots thought they'd take her down. But she mopped the floor with them. She shot up into the air. But when Medusa launched a fiery snake at her, they duked it out in the skies, lighting up the night with sparks. Ayaka's hands started petrifying, but she shattered it in a heartbeat. Their serpents clashed again, and Medusa's snake evaporated. As Ayaka finally put her to bed, when Anoka came to later that night, he was relieved to see Ayaka safe and sound. She introduced Medusa, now on their team, promising to explain later, then kissed his cheek for saving her skin. Unfortunately, Anoka couldn't keep it together and blew his top right then and there. She warned him never to play chicken with her life again. As they skedaddled from the school, they spotted all the workshop witches rolling in for an emergency powwow. Later that night, they opted to crash at Anoka's place. Given Ayaka's crib had turned into a pile of rubble, but when Anoka proposed they both move in, Takemiya realized she'd be babysitting grandkids sooner than expected and welcomed them warmly. However, the next day, Kasumi was eager to ramp up the sibling pornography plot.
Sensational.
During lunch,
At lunch, she erupted at Ayaka and threatened to kick her out. Takemiya tried to calm her, but Kasumi's sharp tongue put her in full shut-up mode. With Takemiya now dead weight, Anoka had to drag her off to her room. At school, the student council president Mio ordered her fan club to boot Anoka. Thinking he distracted Ayaka, frustrated by their uselessness, she tasked Mikage to handle the matter or lose his job as the student council member. That morning, when Anoka and Ayaka walked into school, they were summoned to Mikage's lab. Inside, Mikage showed Anoka how big of a useless crap he is. He blamed Anoka for being a nuisance and distracting Ayaka from her duties as school princess. He couldn't have picked a worse time to cling to her like a barnacle and reminded him of Ayaka's role as a model student. Despite Mikage's plea to stay away from Ayaka, she insisted she'd rather bend the rules. With Ayaka wielding school authority, she could rewrite the rulebook. Realizing separation was impossible, Mikage warned he might lose his council position. Ayaka promised a plan to do something about it. Suddenly, Mikage unveiled a green experiment. The orb exploded, disintegrating Ayaka and teleporting Anoka to another dimension. Wondering how they got there, Mikage revealed it was a scientific experiment, with Ayaka safe in the real world. Showing him a replica of Kronwar's orb, Mikage revealed one of its 5 seals broke inside him. The seals, meant to cage Evermillion, would weaken until destroyed. Evermillion's release could unleash chaos, as she'd seek vengeance on Kazini for sealing her decades ago. He also disclosed Ayaka hid Medusa from Kazini. Anoka found it unbelievable, questioning if Mikage believed him. Mikage, already knowing the truth, asked him to be his prince, promising protection forever. Suddenly, the illusion shattered, and Ayaka pinned him with iron bars. As the spell cracked, revealing a wooden toy, Ayaka subdued Anoka, finding him unharmed. Leading him away, she summoned all students to the gym. Taking the stage as school princess, she fired Mio from council presidency. Anoka emerged, named the new president. Nervous, he wondered if Ayaka set him up to fail, but she assured him no one would dare harm him. Later, during a council meeting, a girl introduced Ayaka as Anoka's new vice president. Another girl protested, demanding why Mio was replaced by Anoka. After school, as they headed home, Kasumi stalked them, plotting to keep Anoka close forever by kidnapping him. While Anoka shopped for stuffed animals, the teddy sneaked in and whisked him away before Ayaka noticed. Shocked, Ayaka witnessed a car crash into the shop, causing an explosion, and she was struck by tranquilizers, passing out. Kasumi told Anoka she'd abducted him and Ayaka would be out cold for days, flying off on a paper plane. She revealed plans for a new home far from the city to hide him forever. Anoka, baffled by her antics, insisted he didn't want to be separated from Ayaka. Suddenly, a massive tree dragon appeared above them, and they realized Ayaka had found them. Immediately, she attempted to shoot down their plane, narrowly missing, but continued firing, causing widespread destruction in the city. Desperate to evade, Kasumi steered the plane skyward, but they collided with a building and plummeted. Ayaka swooped in, saving Anoka and catching Kasumi, using her body as a shield as they crashed through a glass ceiling and hit the floor hard. By the time a group of witches arrived, they found Ayaka already dragging Kasumi's unconscious form home. That night, when Anoka woke, Ayaka informed him Kasumi had survived and was resting, grateful for saving his sister. Anoka thanked Ayaka, who then insisted on being called A-chan, trying to foster a sibling bond. The next morning, Anoka noticed his 2 sisters weren't getting along and hoped they would reconcile. Meanwhile, news of Kazini's impending visit shook Takemiya awake. Soon after, she divulged a family secret. She had a child out of her marriage but abandoned her at birth. With their father still MIA, she planned to reclaim her eldest daughter and reveals who she is. Startled awake, Anoka screamed, but Ayaka slipped away. As he wandered, he found Ayaka cooking in an apron, while Takemiya and Kasumi had already left. He suspected they were giving him space to make a move on Ayaka. Meanwhile, Kiriashi and her crew spied on them, hidden in Ayaka's room, intent on concealing Anoka's secret from Kazini, fearing her wrath upon discovering he had broken Evermillion's seal. Later that day, Ayaka urged Anoka to take a shower, noting it had been 2 weeks since he last cleaned himself, calling him out humorously. Her true motive was to keep him hidden from Kazini. However, when Anoka tried to enter the bathroom, he found the witches inside, who bound him to prevent escape. Despite his struggle, he managed to break free, but Kazini knocked out Kasumi and put Takemiya to sleep. With the witches found, Kazini summoned her robe, determined to capture them. Ayaka attacked with her broom, but Kazini easily repelled her. Kazini demanded Anoka assert himself and command Ayaka to stand down, but he recalled Mikich's warning about his seal and instructed Ayaka to protect the witches at all costs. In response, Ayaka's flames intensified, and she revealed her secret contract, merging with Medusa. As snake-like creatures encircled her, Medusa absorbed Ayaka's energy, making Anoka queasy and causing him to faint. In his unconscious state, memories replayed, revealing Ayaka spared Medusa's life after their battle. Intending to ally with her to thwart Kazini once, she discovered Anoka's weakening seal, releasing Evermillion to strengthen their alliance. Medusa accepted. Meanwhile, scales covered Ayaka's body like armor, which Kazini interpreted as Medusa brainwashing her, aiming to groom Ayaka as her successor. Anoka realized his mother was as clueless as ever. Medusa mocked Kazini's incompetence, dubbing her the bumbling detective. Kazini remained determined to sever their union, clashing broomsticks with Ayaka until her face began turning to stone. Unyielding, Kazini pressed on, eventually petrifying Ayaka before transforming into a stone statue herself. Ayaka managed to free herself and prepared to flee, but Kazini struck her from behind, catching her before she fell, her stone form dissipating. Kazini berated Ayaka for growing weak, blaming her union with Medusa and vowing to put an end to it. Anoka yearned for the power to act. Realizing one seal had been broken, he sought to awaken his witch-god abilities. Suddenly, he swapped places with Ayaka, and Kazini punched him squarely in the mouth, knocking out his useless teeth. When he awoke, he found himself imprisoned, Ayaka unable to burn through the iron bars. She explained they were in a punishment chamber, defeated by Kazini, who had even captured Medusa. Ayaka lamented their predicament, fearing Kazini would force Medusa to spill their secrets. Bound to protect Anoka's seal, Ayaka resolved to break their chains, praising Anoka for taking Kazini's blow. Anoka's confidence grew a whole inch, prompting him to question why Ayaka protected the witches. She revealed it was to safeguard their secrets from Kazini's interrogation. Ayaka had allied with Medusa to shield him, and Anoka felt emboldened by her resolve. Wondering if she had a new plan, Ayaka proposed defeating her mother and recruiting her as an ally. She vowed to protect Anoka's precious insides from malevolent witches. Meanwhile, Kazini interrogated Kranua, furious over losing Medusa to workshop witches who returned her to confinement. Kazini's frustration mounted as she was denied access to interrogate Medusa, rendering her efforts futile. Fuming, Kazini snapped a board in half, yearning for peace in her city. As the school suddenly exploded from underground, Ayaka and Kazini prepared to face off again. Kazini confronted Ayaka, questioning her reckless behavior. Ayaka challenged her mother to another fight, but Kazini, weary of their clashes, ordered her to leave. Returning home, Anoka was relieved their secret was safe, crediting Ayaka's hidden powers for their escape. Ayaka, empowered by their bond, grasped Anoka, hinting at further developments in their relationship. However, a bizarre arousal caused her to emit a green glow, inadvertently destroying the school. Years ago, Kazini had tasked Kani and Tuka with guarding Ayaka. At school, Ayaka was mistaken for a celebrity, showcasing incredible athletic prowess. Despite her distant demeanor, students speculated whether she hailed from another planet or suffered from amnesia. When a bunch of clueless bullies attempted to chop off her hair, Ayaka swatted their scissors away, raising their body temperatures until they dropped unconscious. Weeks later, she embarked on her quest to find Anoka, staking out boys-only schools until dusk each day. Despite checking every single school off her list, she felt hopeless during spring, fearing she'd never locate him. Then one fateful day, she finally spotted him and sprinted towards him. But upon meeting him, she realized he was with Kasumi, who had no recollection of her. The next morning, Anoka vaguely recalled the encounter but dismissed it as a dream. At breakfast, Kasumi questioned when their home had turned into a loony bin, seeking answers from Anoka about the strange occurrences. On their way to school, Kasumi clung to Anoka, fearing Ayaka might snatch him away. At school, when Anoka opened his locker, a deluge of threatening letters fell on him, revealing a plot by students to oust him from the council presidency. Meanwhile, a notorious gang invaded seeking revenge for their ousted friend, turning the school into chaos during class change. Dodging a ball aimed at his face, Anoka was stunned to find the school transformed into a biker's hangout. Ayaka explained the rebellion stemmed from his presidency, with students rallying to overthrow him. Amidst the chaos, a bully shoved Toka, prompting the appearance of Rainon, the instigator behind the madness. Rainon's assistant handed Anoka a challenge letter for a one-on-one battle in the gym. Realizing his predicament, Anoka lamented his situation. Toka exposed Mio's deceit in summoning the invaders under false pretenses, sparking Rainon's vendetta. When Anoka arrived at the gym, he found the entire student body gathered. Rainon taunted him for coming alone, prepared to mop the floor with him. Despite Anoka's attempt to negotiate, Rainon swiftly punched him in the face, sending him crashing to the ground. She ridiculed him for being utterly useless, suggesting his face was fit for replacing a toilet bowl, then proceeded to land another punch. Anoka winced at Ayaka's distress while Rainon continued pummeling him like a punching bag, throwing in quick jabs that left him slumped. Rainon pondered aloud why such a weakling should hold the council presidency, aiming to knock him into oblivion. Summoning his resolve, Anoka recalled Ayaka's strategy for incapacitating Rainon. Dodging her final blow, he managed to push her to the ground, but his strength faltered, unable to knock out her teeth. Before he could surrender, the lights suddenly went out, and Kiriyashi's squad dropped from the roof. Surrounded, Rainon brushed Anoka aside and swiftly dealt with the squad. With Kiriyashi down, Rainon turned back to finish the job, but Ayaka intervened, delivering a fiery punch that sent Rainon tumbling. When the lights returned, the witches gathered around Anoka's unconscious form, declaring him the victor. However, all the students saw was a beaten and bruised Anoka. The next day at school, the students cleared a path for them, and Anoka began to believe he was becoming a local hero. Days later, Ayaka informed Anoka she was ready to train him in combat, leading him to a rooftop. Curious about her sudden change, Anoka learned she wanted to toughen him up against bullies. Conjuring a flame from the ground, Ayaka demonstrated by summoning a fiery monster. Anoka struggled, managing only to summon a tiny sword, distracted by Ayaka's impressive firepower. Frustrated by his lackluster effort, Anoka pleaded with Ayaka to stop treating him like a hopeless loser. Ayaka, unrelenting, summoned another fire beast, intent on pushing him harder. As the monster unleashed flames, Anoka felt overwhelmed but saw it as part of his training. Ayaka urged him to summon his own creature, and as he did, the fiery beast barely missed him, leaving him shaken. Ayaka intervened to protect him from the creature's wrath, ending the session as Anoka nursed a scratched elbow. Determined to impress her, Anoka insisted on continuing, prompting Ayaka to throw him off the building, challenging him to summon a monster mid-air. Following him on her broomstick, Ayaka urged him to focus on his visualization. Struggling as he plummeted, their bond sparked a massive explosion, conjuring a giant replica of Ayaka. Dazed by the spectacle, Anoka passed out, drained from exerting all his magical energy. Meanwhile, Mikage and Kronwar had witnessed the entire spectacle, and Kronwar speculated that Anoka must have breached his second seal. Concerned that Anoka might unravel all the seals, Cronwar feared Kazini would soon uncover their clandestine agenda. Simultaneously, Rhinon, secretly a workshop which had aligned herself with Kazini. They convened around a magic circle where Rhinon disclosed a dire warning. A formidable tower which named Weekend had approached her, threatening to obliterate their entire city. Back home, Ayaka was already on her way back when Anoka regained consciousness and thanked her profusely for repeatedly saving his sorry self. It triggered Ayaka's memory of seeing Anoka in her dreams, where he prophesied their future friendship in middle school. This dream had lingered with her over the years, compelling her to seek him out when she finally entered middle school herself. In a derelict building, Weekend, the powerful tower which paid Kazini a visit, she unveiled that the magic circle was actually a devastating magical weapon capable of a cataclysmic explosion surpassing an atomic bomb. Kazini contemplated whether Weekend would barter Anoka's life to spare the city, but Weekend had more sinister plans, to destroy the city outright and still seize Anoka. With Kazini erecting a protective magic barrier around the city, Weekend questioned how many citizens Kazini could shield simultaneously. Sensing the imminent danger, Kazini braced herself, but Weekend swiftly withdrew, activating her clock as the magic circle initiated a series of explosions across the city, even shaking the school during exams. Amidst the chaos, while others fled for their lives,
席に戻って。テスト中は静かにするものよ。
a flaming barrier erupted, singeing papers and nearly roasting Anoka's face, prompting Ayaka to whisk him away. Inside the deserted building, Weekend revealed her machinations, having deliberately lured Medusa to the city and manipulated her as a pawn in her grand scheme to dominate the region. As Kazini collapsed from exhaustion after maintaining the barrier, Weekend ordered her minions to imprison Kazini. Meanwhile, Ayaka and Anoka sought refuge in an abandoned storeroom where Ayaka unveiled a secret tunnel as their escape route. With Kazini incarcerated and Weekend plotting to capture Anoka before Kazini could recover her magical strength, Ayaka prepared to navigate their perilous situation. Just then, Ayaka and Anoka found themselves in a coliseum where Kasumi joyously reunited with her brother. Rhinon took the opportunity to formally introduce herself, and Anoka queried about the cause of the earlier explosion. Swiftly, another which produced a gun and aimed at Anoka, prompting Ayaka to swiftly punch her square in the mouth. Evading Rhinon's retaliatory strike, Ayaka swiftly grounded her. However, the gunshot's impact transferred to Ayaka, and she began to fade from consciousness. As another which poised to strike Ayaka, Anoka leaped in to shield her just in time. Seeing Rhinon advancing, Kasumi sprang to her brother's defense, swiftly incapacitating Rhinon. Rhinon began informing him about an impending attack on the city and insisted that he stay hidden. She escorted him down ancient steps into a dungeon, warning him sternly against attempting any escape. Left alone, Anoka contemplated using his broomstick to fly out, but Ayaka abruptly woke up, reminding him that magic was off-limits. Curious about the attacker, Anoka questioned Ayaka, who identified the threat as likely originating from a tower which, speculating that their confinement was due to Kazini's capture. They resigned themselves to hiding until Kazini regained her magical prowess, though Anoka fretted over the prospect of capture. Meanwhile, an unassuming teddy bear approached the dungeon, revealing a hologram of Weekend introducing herself. Ayaka, unimpressed, swiftly dismantled the toy, triggering an explosion that blasted a hole in the dungeon wall. While Anoka worried about Rhinon's potential wrath, Ayaka briefed him on Weekend's impending assault and reminded him of their magic restriction until the barrier was restored. They ventured toward the exit and emerged to find the city ravaged by fire. Anoka feared the worst, but Ayaka reassured him that Kazini's magic could revive the city once their adversaries were vanquished. Anoka lamented his perceived responsibility for the catastrophe, prompting Ayaka to chide him to toughen up and focus on restoring the barrier post-haste. Inspired by Ayaka's resolve, Anoka steeled himself and followed her lead through the ruined city. They discovered a covert facility and descended into a cavern, navigating precarious terrain around a mountain. Anoka slipped and plummeted, with Ayaka diving after him to break his fall. They survived the ordeal, but Anoka's self-deprecating humor persisted. At the Colosseum, a new witch arrived with an arsenal of bombs, confronting Rainon about Weekend's ultimatum to annihilate a group of workshop witches unless Anoka was surrendered. Meanwhile, Kasumi and the Korichi squad observed Weekend from a rooftop. Down in the tunnel, Anoka and Ayaka encountered a tower witch lurking in the shadows. Identifying herself as Gibraltar, the witch declared her long-awaited confrontation with them. Ayaka pushed Anoka aside as a stone monster materialized and attacked her relentlessly. Anoka desperately tried to intervene, but the monster overpowered Ayaka, leaving Gibraltar to taunt her about her perceived helplessness without magic. So, to finish off her pointless existence, the monster swung a blow, but Ayaka deftly sidestepped and dashed toward the girl. Unleashing powerful punches, she landed a flying knee on Gibraltar, causing the stones to crumble. Meanwhile, at the Colosseum, Tuka informed Rainon that Anoka and Ayaka were unresponsive to calls from the dungeon phone. Speculating they might have escaped, Rainon pondered who would serve as the new bait. Just then, Natsumi proposed that the bombs could be dispelled with a simple incantation, but with their magic drained, Rainon saw only a miracle saving them. Meanwhile, Anoka and Ayaka reached a massive tree, where Ayaka revealed it as the workshop's sacred site, the source of all their magic. Understanding his responsibility, Anoka pledged to erect a new barrier. Back at the school, Rainon and the witches prepared to confront Weekend, while the nutcase wondered about Anoka's absence, pressing Rainon for more time to locate him. Weekend, however, scorned them as inept losers and threatened the hostages' lives one by one. Sensing a deeper plot, Kasumi suspected Weekend might be a diversion for a more powerful witch lurking within the school. At the sacred grounds, Ayaka warned Anoka that he would weaken once their pact was complete, but hoped he would endure. Approaching the sacred tree, vines ensnared him from underwater, just as Weekend began counting down to the first bomb's detonation. As the bomb was dispelled, Korichi arrived to bolster their efforts. With Weekend poised to trigger another detonation, Rainon and Natsumi charged at her. Their magic restored, and Rainon drove her into the ground with a punch. Meanwhile, Anoka, drained and unable to stand, was advised by Ayaka to rest until his strength returned. Rainon and Natsumi successfully captured Weekend and confined her in a secure cell, proud of their victory. As they prepared to depart, Weekend mocked their intellect, claiming their feeble magic could never have subdued her alone. Reveling in her deception, she detonated explosives strapped to her body, blasting Rainon and Natsumi away while Anoka weakened further from the magic loss. Surviving the blast, Weekend was aided by another witch who shielded her with a new robe. Anoka, drifting into a trance, foresaw Weekend's assault on the Colosseum, further draining his strength. Despite Ayaka's efforts to manage his power consumption, she resorted to knocking him out to safeguard him. Taking charge of the ongoing battle, Ayaka vowed to avenge their city and confront the escalating threat head-on. She laid him in a room, hopeful for his safety. Suddenly, Anoka realized he had been transported to the past and saw his mother, who had also endured bullying, realizing the legacy of being a loser in his family. A younger Kazini had taken charge, kicking everyone's butts and later befriending Takamiya. As Anoka grew older, Kazini took him home, and upon seeing Ayaka, she insisted they be in the same class in middle school, eager to see her childhood vision come true. In an instant, Anoka found himself in another dimension, facing Mike's odd face, who explained he appeared due to a contract. Memories flooded back in a cycle, with Mikeage revealing they were Kazini's memories. Wondering where they were, Mikeage explained they were in the space between dimensions and offered to show Anoka crucial memories as they arrived in a new dimension. Mikeage explained stars represented human lives, hidden here during the city's magical chaos. When restored, memories were erased, revealing Mikeage was a memory-erasing mage. In the city, Kasumi's red bear charged a black bear, nudging it away before getting kicked back. They clashed fiercely, hammering each other until the red bear finally gained the upper hand. But the black bear rose again, determined for another round, trading blows relentlessly. As the red bear dodged and smashed a building, Kasumi saved a falling witch but got punched away, exhausting her magic. The black bear aimed to finish her, scythe ready. Atori's puppet revealed Weekend's location, and Ayaka planned to pursue her, asking Atori to watch over Anoka. In the city, Medusa saved Kasumi, petrifying the black bear and causing it to explode. The useless girls reunited with their mistress, wondering how she escaped prison. Ayaka flew toward Weekend's location, finding her in a church. Drawing Rant's magic sword, Ayaka charged, but Weekend detonated a bomb, forcing her retreat. In the dimension, Mikage revealed he wiped Anoka's and Ayaka's memories, shocking Anoka, who demanded answers. Mikage saved him from an explosion, realizing a tower which invaded their dimension. In the church, Weekend ignited bombs as Ayaka dodged, charging and leaping with her blade, knocked aside by an explosion. Weekend boasted of invincibility, but Ayaka charged again, slicing her hair. Ayaka, unharmed by explosions, shielded by magic, attacked, but Weekend detonated a bomb, collapsing the roof. However, Ayaka dodged the chaos, flames pouring from her, which only made the menace more excited, thinking she'd found a real contender. Despite that, she finally subdued her, stating that Ayaka was useless without Anoka's magic. Just then, Ayaka unleashed her flames, revealing she had swapped shirts with Anoka to keep some of his magic. Thinking the fight was over, she tried to leave, but Weekend got back up and detonated another bomb, slamming Ayaka into the wall. Immediately, Weekend summoned huge monsters, and Ayaka noticed her injuries were healing. Meanwhile, Anoka was burning up with a fever, so Atori decided to strip him of his plot armor, discovering that the wimp was starting to develop a man's body. In the dimension, the tower which kept attacking, so Mikage told Anoka they were trying to capture him. Fearing his real body would be found soon, Anoka sent a shock through his system, waking himself up. As Anoka dressed, he told Atori they had to save Ayaka right away. However, Ayaka had already ordered her to protect him, so she shoved him back on the bed but left when the phone rang. Outside, Mikage told her he'd captured the intruder, but found bombs planted in the dimension housing human souls. Their best bet was to hand Anoka over to Weekend, though Mikage suspected it was a trap. Just then, Anoka appeared, demanding to know where Ayaka was, afraid she'd be killed without his magic. Meanwhile, at the church, Weekend had captured Ayaka, who realized she had drained all her magic. Wondering how she protected herself, Weekend explained her magic helped her heal from injuries and that she'd saved up her magic while setting bombs. She had carefully laid her plan, planting bombs across the city. However, her regenerative magic and magic reserves were exhausted. With a snap, she detonated her monsters, and Anoka and Atori saw the explosion. Realizing Ayaka was there, Anoka rushed to the scene, hoping he wasn't too late. When he found her, she was unconscious. As she opened her eyes, he told her to use his magic, hoping they could stop Weekend from destroying the human souls. As he passed out from exhaustion, an enemy charged at her. She awakened Evermillion's power, burning the enemy instantly. Before Weekend realized it, Ayaka knocked her to the ground, demanding the bomb switch. The nutcase said she'd already detonated it. At that moment, a magic circle activated in the dimension, triggering an explosion. Watching the blast spread, Anoka saw all the human souls being destroyed, the shock breaking his mind. Weekend blamed him for the destruction, urging him to release his seal, unleashing his god powers with his ultimate spell. Ayaka ran to him, but his magic suddenly vanished, and he collapsed from exhaustion. Waking up in a new dimension, Evermillion wondered why he wouldn't accept that he was just another weak, ugly loser, and quit pushing his luck. She told him they were within her barrier and that she'd help him restore the city in exchange for his life, with Ayaka's life already tied to his. Anoka realized she would die once his life was taken but thought restoring the city was a worthy sacrifice. As he screamed for Evermillion to lend him her power, a burst of colorful flowers surrounded him. They started spreading across the church, reversing time itself, stretching out to cover the entire city, and restoring the buildings to their former glory. Fearing that Anoka would drain all his strength, Ayaka tried to tell him to stop the magic, but he replied that he had already struck the deal, trading their lives for the city. Ayaka, thinking their lives were worth the sacrifice, asked Evermillion to take her life instead, saying she was ready to fulfill the promise she made. At that moment, her magic disappeared, and she collapsed to the floor. As Anoka rushed to help her, Weekend stabbed him in the back, taunting him that he had ruined all her plans and might as well play the role of a simp in the afterlife. Despite the pain, Anoka pulled out the knife and pushed her to the ground. Instead of finishing her off, he stabbed the floor, deciding to spare her life. He began to declare that he would always be weak and useless, but he would rather sacrifice his life for everyone else. Then he lost all his strength and passed out. Weekend, however, instructed her assistant to heal his wound, stating she would come up with a better plan to steal his powers next time. After being healed, they started to leave, but Atori remained hidden. Just then, Weekend noticed that Kronwar had been waiting outside and decided to lead her away. When Atori entered the church, Anoka revealed that Ayaka had stopped breathing. Mikage then discovered that human souls were beginning to return to the real world, speaking through Atori's puppet. He told Anoka that the human souls had been saved, but Anoka was devastated to have lost the one person he cared about. After learning everything that happened, Mikage revealed that Ayaka couldn't have possibly exchanged her life for his, and suggested they cast a revival spell to awaken her. As Anoka began the spell, Mikage revealed that his only chance to revive her would be by kissing her. To help him muster the courage, Mikage revealed that Ayaka had broken her contract with him and that he could reawaken her by restoring the contract that bound their lives together. This contract granted her limitless power from his magic, but he needed to kiss her to help her wake up.
What the fuck, y'all? God damn! God damn!
Meanwhile, in the city, Kronwar decided to challenge Weekend to a fight, but in an instant, she kicked her butt and restrained her with a spell. Kronwar told her that her plans sucked worse than her face, revealing that she could never win while Anoka's and Ayaka's lives were bound to each other. Just then, Kazini arrived, and when Weekend wondered how she escaped from prison, Kazini revealed she regained all her magic within hours, but chose to stay away from the fight. When she demanded Kronwar hand over the menace, Kronwar decided to challenge her to a battle. Using Weekend as a trampoline, she descended with her claws, but Kazini punched her ugly face and kept pummeling her until she was drained. In Evermillion's dimension, Anoka discovered that Ayaka had asked the White Princess to release their contract if Anoka's life was ever in danger, offering to sacrifice her magic for him. This was her vow to Evermillion, but the White Princess revealed that Anoka's magic had restored the city without her help, successfully canceling their agreement to take his life. When Anoka woke up, he found Ayaka still alive and was overjoyed to see her again. A few days later, as they returned to school, Ayaka revealed that her magic was regenerating, and Anoka was just glad to have her back, unable to imagine life without her. However, the group of mentally unstable folks were back for Anoka, since the catastrophe-level magic had transformed him into a full 8-incher, and they charged at him, wanting his special powers. But Ayaka restrained them, revealing she was the only one who could handle his magic. Watch this next video, and until next time, my fellow legendary plot masters.